In this video, we are going to create our cross sections for our road. In the previous video, we looked at how to create the corridor. So if you missed that, make sure you check out for that video so that you don't miss out. So in order to create cross sections in Civil 3D, we have to first start by creating sample lines. Sample lines are the backbone for creating cross sections in Civil 3D. So in order for us to create sample lines, we are going to navigate to the Home tab and then go to the Profile and Section Views panel. So on that panel, you will see sample lines there when you hover your cursor here. So you will see the sample lines here. So click on sample lines and then you'll be prompted to select an alignment. So you can either come and select your alignment from here, of which in this case it's going to be the center line alignment, or you can just press enter. You can read the words there or press enter to select from this. So press enter. When you press enter, it will allow you to select it from a list of the alignments. So we want to sample the roadway, which is the center line alignment we created earlier. So click OK. And then we are going to create the sample line group. So on the name, let us call it, let us just add something before this template. Let's add roadway SL collection. So this is going to be the sample line collection, and it will add the next counter based on this template. So we are not going to change much on that. Let's leave it at that. Then the sample line style, let's leave it as road sample line. Then the sample line label style, section name, let's leave it at that. We are not adding a description. Our alignment is the roadway, which you have already chosen. Then the data sources to sample from. The data sources, we have the EG, the corridor, and then the corridor surfaces that we created. So if you don't want to sample any of those, you can uncheck it here. But for now, let's leave them checked. We shall see later on how to change the sources to sample from. So let's click OK for now. Now, when you click OK, you will see that it's now prompting you to select the stations where you want to sample. But doing it manually is not very easy. We need to find another method of doing it. So when we come to this sample line tools, I'm not going to talk about much of these parameters. If you want to know more about them, you can just hover your cursor, say like here, and then you see what that represents. So we are going to change the method from here. So just click on this drop down. And then currently we are in the method which is at a station. So this one allows us to choose our stations, but I don't want to do it that way. Let us choose by range of stations. So click on that by range of stations, and we are going to have this dialog where we can set the parameters that where we are going to sample from. So general, we have our alignment as the roadway, and then the station range we have from alignment start. So make sure you set this to true so that we are going to sample from the start of our alignment. Our station range is going to begin from the start of the alignment, which is at chain edge 00. Then the end of our alignment, also set this to true. So the end station, this is the last chain edge on our alignment. Now the swath width, is the offset from the center, either towards the left or the right, up to where you are going to sample. Now, when you're choosing this, you have to make sure that it is greater than the extent of your corridor, either from the center to the right or from the center to the left. So you have to ensure that it's bigger than the extent of your corridor so that you sample everything. So we are not going to stamp this to an alignment, but otherwise you can also choose that option. So we are not going to snap it to any alignment. The swath width to the left, the width is by default we are having 20 meters, and I think 20 meters is enough. Or if you see it's not enough, you can put your own value. Shouldn't put a value that is too big, but it should be bigger than the extent of your corridor. That's the only thing you have to ensure. Then the swath width to the right, still let us leave it as 20 meters. I think 20 meters will be enough. So you have to ensure that this 20 meters is greater than the extent of your corridor so that you sample all your data. So the sampling increments, use sample increments, leave that as true. Then the increment relative to, leave this to absolute stations. And then the increments along tangents. So you can change these values depending on what you want. So along tangents, we are going to sample at intervals of 20 meters. And then along curves, we are still going to sample at 20 meters. So, but you can change this to something like 10 meters if you wish, but let's leave it at 20 for now for this tutorial. Then the increment along spirals, we don't have any spirals in our design, but you can change these values to suit to what you want. Then the additional sample controls at range start. So if you set this to false, it means Civil 3D will not create a sample line at the start of your range if it is false. But if you want to sample at the start of your range or your alignment, make sure you change this to true. So let us change this to true so that we sample at the beginning and also at the end. Let's also sample at the end. So let's change this to true. So we are going to have a sample line at the beginning and also at the end. Then at horizontal geometry, let's just leave it at false. I don't want to sample that. We don't have any super elevation, just leave it still at false. So after setting those parameters to your satisfaction, just click OK. So after clicking OK, you see that our sample lines have been created. So for now, you can just escape this. So when you escape that, we shall see that now our sample lines have been created for us. So our sample lines have been created from the start up to the end as you have chosen. So if you have set those parameters to true, it should have sampled up to the end of your alignment. So it is these sample lines that are going to be used to create cross sections. I was talking about the swath width, that it is the distance or the offset from the center up to the end, to the end up to where you're going to sample. So in case that swath width was smaller than the extent of this corridor, this would end like somewhere inside and it would not sample all our data that you want to sample. So you have to ensure that it goes beyond. At this point, it's still going beyond, so it is still enough. So our 20 meters was just good enough. Otherwise, if it's not enough, you can always edit the properties of these sample lines. So to edit these sample lines, you can check and see our swath width was good enough. So in order for you to edit these sample lines, you can select one of them and then go to, if you want to that one alone, you can click on sample line properties, but if you want to all of them, you just go to group properties. So select group properties. When you select the group properties, you can change some of the information here. If you want to change the name, sample lines, we have a list of them here. There are some properties that you can change from here. The sections. I talked about something like we could sample more or less sources from here. We shall talk about that later on. Then the material list. Let's first close this. We are not going to change any properties there for now. I'm satisfied with this so far. After creating our sample lines, next we're going to create our section views. So to create section views, you can select a sample line and then go to create section views. And then you can select create multiple section views. But I'm not going to use this option. You can use that option. And the alternative for that, you can go to the Home tab, and then under this panel of profile and section views, you can see we have section views from here. So I'm going to use this option. You can click on the drop down here, and on the drop down, you're going to see create multiple views. There are other options, but we are going to select this one, create multiple views. So click on that. So when you click on that, it's going to bring for you a wizard for creating the multiple section views. So on the general tab, you're going to see to select your alignment. Our alignment is the roadway alignment. And then the sample line group name. The sample line group name, we call it roadway SL collection 1. So this is it. And then the station range. If you leave it at automatic, it's going to sample from the start to the end, or you can have your own user defined range if you want. Then the section view name, it has a template for naming for you the section view name. If you want, you can change it, but I'm not changing it. The template is going to have for you the station view, section view station, and then the counter. So let's just leave it like that. You're adding the description. Then the view style, let's leave it at this for now. Then click on next. So section placement. So you can choose a placement option from here. So at first you can choose it from production. Here you can add your section views to the given template, or you can, if you choose draft, then you're going to just place them in the model space. But I'm not going to just place them in the model space. I want to produce them in a template, in a layout template. So if you have selected this first option of production, then that means you have to go ahead and you select the given template if you have one. If you have your template that you want to use for producing these section views, you can click on these 3 dots and then navigate to where you have your template and then you use it. However, I'm not going to use any template. I want to use the default templates that are provided in the Civil 3D metric template. So when you are choosing this template, you have to ensure that the scale of this layout matches with the annotation scale that you are currently at. So currently my annotation scale is 1 to 500. So I have to ensure that I choose one that is at that scale. Now, in case you choose one that is at a different scale, if the scales don't match, you may not get the result that you want. Now, in case you want to select something, say 1 to 1000, and your annotation scale is different, at that moment, you have to just cancel this, and then you first set your annotation scale to the scale which you want to produce your section views. So currently, I'm okay with 1 to 500. So this is the annotation scale I'm going to set. After setting to this annotation scale, now we can go back and create our section views. So let's quickly create our section views. Go to the Home tab, Profile and Section Views panel, then Section Views, and then create multiple views. So in this wizard, on the General tab, we have set some of these. You have seen some of these before. And the alignment, our alignment is the roadway alignment. We are leaving this the way it is, automatic. We are setting the station range to automatic start to the end. Then the section view name, we are using that template. We are not changing that. The layer, we are leaving the layer at that. Then the section view style, we are having the style as the road section. So let us try to modify this a bit. Just click here. Let us try to change this style to something. So under this, we have the information where we can change the name, the graph. Some of these look similar to what we saw in the style of the profile view. So you can try to relate to that. So the graph, you can change some of these parameters here, but I'm interested in the grid. So I want to change the grid padding above the maximum elevation. I want to reduce this one a bit from 2 meters to something like 1 meter. Let's change this one below also to 1 meter, and leave it as that. There are more other parameters that you can change. So this looks similar to what we saw when we were looking at profile view style. So you can try to change some of these to suit into what you want. We have the intervals here, the major and the minor. You can try to change them if you want, but I'm okay with that. I just wanted to change the grid, the padding to 1 meter below and above. So you can apply and then click OK. So let's go to the placement. So click on next. The section placement, we are going to use production. If you choose draft, you'll just be able to draw them in the model space, but you won't place them in a layout. So we want to place them in a layout. Make sure you choose production. And then you have to select a template. So the template we are choosing, I'm going to choose ISO A1 section scale at a scale of 1 to 500. So you have to make sure that this scale matches with the annotation scale you're having down here. So once they are matching, you can click on OK and select that. Then the group plot style, we are having it at basic. Let's try to see if we can modify something there. So when you click there, you have the information here. Then we have the array. So there are some parameters that you can change here. The plot rules, you can have it by rows or by columns. You can change the start corner if you want to change. So you can try to click on this and you see what happens. But I'm not going to change all this. Maybe let me change the spacing between adjacent section views. Columns, let me set this to 10 millimeters. Then the rows, let's also change this to something like 10 millimeters. Let me just leave it at that. Then the plot area, let me leave other properties as the defaults and then apply and then click OK. So next, you have the offset range. We are leaving it at automatic. Our swath width was 20 meters, so I'm going to respect that. -20 to the left and then +20 to the right. I'm not going to have a user-defined range. Next, the elevation range. I'm still leaving the elevation range to automatic, but you can change to a user specified if you want, but I'm leaving it at default, which is automatic. Then next, the section display options. Here you can turn off if you don't want, say, the EG surface to appear in your section, you can uncheck it here. Or if you don't want to any of these to appear in your sections, but I'm leaving all of them there for now. Then if you want to change the style, you can still come and you change the style from here, but I'm leaving everything as the default. Next, the data bands. The data bands, this is something that looks similar to what we saw still in the profile view, something that will appear at the bottom. So you can change the band set if you want, but I'm still leaving the defaults. The location, I want it to appear at the bottom of my section. So after setting all these parameters to your satisfaction, then you can create section views. So click on create section views and Civil 3D will prompt you to click and to identify the origin for your section views. So make sure you click somewhere where it is not going to interfere with the existing drawings. So I'm going to click at some point here where I have free space. So this is going to be the origin, meaning they're going to be generated to the upper right. So I'm going to click here for the origin. Just left click here once. And your section views are going to be generated for you. So these are our section views. They have been placed for us in the layout. Now, in case you had selected the placement option to draft, you would not be able to have them in the layout. You would just have them drawn in just in the model space. So you can view, these are our sections. So at chain edge 00, this is what we have. You can see this is the existing edge surface, and then our corridor is there. So you can change the data you are sampling. We are going to see how to modify the properties of this later on. So Civil 3D has placed 9 of them on each layout. So you can check. And then on the last one, you have something like 6, which is okay. So we shall also see how to place these ones on a sheet. One thing for you to note is that if the annotation scale does not match the scale of the template that you chose, your things will not look the way you wanted them to look. So you have to take note of the scale as you are creating these section views. So you can change some of the properties. When you click on it, you can have the section properties on this contextual ribbon. You can view the section view properties or the view group properties. So you can click on this to change the view group properties if you want. You have the section views here. You can change the style from here. Currently, our style is road section. You can change it to land desktop sections if you want. I'm not going to change anything here. I just want to show you that you can change these properties from here. Then the sections, this is the data that we are showing on our sections. If you don't want to show something, you can uncheck it from here. But we are leaving everything the way it is. So we are not changing anything in the properties. Let's just cancel and we leave everything the way it is. There's something I talked about where we could change our sample sources. Let's first go back to our sample lines. We try to see how we can edit them. So click on any of the sample lines and then go to the group properties. So when you go to the group properties, you're going to see under sections. So you can go to click on sample more sources. Currently, we are sampling the EG, the corridor, and then the 2 surfaces of the corridor created. So when you click on sample more sources, we have an option here to add or to remove one of the. So let me first remove all of them. First, allow me to remove all of them and you see what's going to happen. So if I remove all of them, let me leave only the EG surface and then click apply. So when I click OK, let me click OK and then to accept that. So when you go back to our sections, you see that you can no longer see the corridor in our section. You can only see the EG surface which you have left to sample in our sample line. So you can always change the data that you are sampling in your sections here by just changing the sample sources. So we have removed our corridor. That's why you can no longer see it there. So let's go back and try to change our sample sources. So let's go back and select any sample line, say this one, and then I want to see my sections. Then click on group properties. So we are going back to the group properties, sections, under sections, click on sample more sources. So I want to bring back my corridor. You can hover your cursor to see what is there. So this is my roadway corridor. So I want to sample my roadway corridor. So you click on add to add it there. Then I also want to sample my corridor data. So let me add it there. And then click on OK. And then click on OK again. So you will see that now my corridor will appear again in my section. So you can always change the data that you are sampling in your sections by just clicking on that, you can alter the sources from which you are sampling. So these are my sections. Next, we are going to see how we can place these on sheets. So let's go ahead and place our sections in section sheets. So to create our section sheets, we're going to go to the output tab, and then we're going to create section sheets. So click on that, create section sheets on the output tab. So you're going to get this dialog to create your section sheets. The alignment, we have the roadway alignment, the sample line group name. This is the sample line group name that we created. Then the section view group, we are going to have section view group 1, which section views are the ones we've created. Then the layout settings, and the layout name, we are going to have the name. So our template here is section sheet, then next counter. So we can just leave it at that, or you can add something to show like roadway. So let me just add RW for roadway section sheet. So it's going to be roadway section sheet 1, 2, 3, and so on. Then the sheet set. So you can create this in a new sheet set, or if you have an existing one, you can add to an existing sheet set. If you have an existing sheet set, you can add it to one. You can click on these 3 dots and you browse for an existing sheet set. But currently I don't have any, so I'm going to just create a new sheet set. You can give it a name, say new sheet set 1. Let me call it roadway sheet set. So I'm going to put RW to stand for roadway. So it's going to be roadway sheet set 1. And then if you want, you can choose where you want to store this. So sheet set storage location, you can click on these dots to browse for a location where you want to store this sheet set. So I'm going to store it in this location. Let me just leave it the way it is. And then if you are satisfied with these settings, and you've chosen the location where you want to store your sheet set, you can go ahead and click on create sheets. So in order for you, Civil 3D is going to tell you to first save your drawing. So in order to complete this, your current drawing will be saved. So let me accept and save the drawing. So Civil 3D is creating for me my section sheets. I need to wait for some time to complete. So after creating your section sheets, the sheet set manager is going to open, and you're going to see your sections have been created. So we have from 1 up to 12. So you can double click on one of them just to see what you have created. Just double click on it from here. So my sections have now been placed on the sheet, and this is I'm using the default template. So if you have your own template, you could use your own template, but we are not using any template. We are just using the default, which is provided in the Civil 3D metric template. So this is how my sections are going to appear on the section sheet. So let me close this sheet set manager, and then I go back to the model space. We have successfully created our sections, and we have placed them on section sheets in this video. So in the next video, we are going to see how we can compute materials. If you have found this helpful, make sure you subscribe, like, and share to your friends. Thank you. See you in the next video.